3, and the start will be a little atypical. We don't have a quorum, but Delegate Wilt is going to talk to us about his bill. Obviously, we won't take any action on it until we have a quorum, but Delegate Wilt, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Before you is House Bill 838, the lane filtering bill, and I know that's stirred up a lot of conversations around the General Assembly, not just this year, but in past. And so, you know, the long and the short of it, fully prepared to have our bill tabled, passed by, whatever lingo you want to use. But, you know, we want to continue to work on it, and for a good reason, Mr. Chairman. I just recently learned that that the DMV had done a study on this issue, and the long and short of that study was it was inconclusive that there was any detrimental effects of lane filtering. Okay, there's other states that do it, and so, you know, but still want to give it due process here in the state of Virginia. Want to make sure that we've crossed the T's and dotted the I's. So prepared for that. But if you would indulge me, Mr. Chairman, I do have some friends that have come here. What we'd like to see is, you know, moving forward, being able to get some folks on that committee. You know, if a committee could be formed to look at this, you know, how it could work in the state of Virginia. Yeah. So with that, I'll yield the floor to some friends. Yeah,
well, clearly you've brought this to the attention. I think there's been work done, as you said. We'd like to hear the results of the study if they're coming forward, or if there's no conclusion. I understand that. Sure. But as you say, also the DMV has expressed interest in this, again, through your efforts, and not all good ideas make it into law the first time here, but
right.
I'm inclined to I'm drawn to the concept, we'll say, and look forward to hearing the testimony today, and hoping that we could perhaps get to the point where there's some bill before the body that there'll be enough support, and we'll advance it through the entire legislature. So, with that said, is there any against that we can start with that?
Mr. Chairman, Matt Danielson, Virginia Coalition of Motorcyclists.
Hey, Matt.
We appreciate.
Feel free to step up to the mic so
we
we can all hear
appreciate
you,
Delegate
Matt.
Will carrying this bill for us. And however, we understand there's not support this time for it. Hopefully, I will be sitting in some of y'all's offices this summer when I come visit you and try to convince you that this is something we should bring here. It is a practice that's done by most of the world, quite frankly, because of safety issues as well as the easing of congestion. We are now seeing it coming to the states. California's had it for a long time. I will tell you, when there was a bill to get rid of it in California, the first people that stood up against that bill and wanting to keep the practice of lane filtering was the California Highway Patrol. We've seen Montana go to it. Utah now does it. Their bill had a sunset provision that was going to end this year. The bill to extend that sunset provision for 5 more years is sailing through the Utah legislature as we speak. And I just learned that Arizona, a bill to bring it to that state, has passed its Senate on Monday. So I hope to have a more in-depth conversation about this with each of you in the future, and I appreciate you giving us time to speak.
Well, thank you, Mr. Danielson. It reminds me that we're not always the first to do something good, but we try not to be the last. So.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, Mark Flynn, and I'm here on my own behalf this afternoon. I ride motorcycles 20 to 30,000 miles a year, and I've had 3 occasions, all of them in Virginia, where when I was in the back of a line of traffic, and you always check your 6 when you're on a motorcycle and even in a car, 3 cases, one going on the road on Route 7 on the way to Round Hill, where I had to go up past the traffic that was stopped because the guy behind me wasn't going to. So that is in the same vein as lane filtering. That is allowing motorcycles to not be the thing that gets hit in the back of a line. So ultimately, I hope this becomes law for Virginia and have to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else have any? I think that's it.
Yeah, we do have a familiar name. We do have a quorum now, but we do have a friend or close to a constituent of mine, I think, probably lives just outside the district. And so if there's no more testimony in the room.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, you've got testimony.
Sure, yeah.
I'm Joe Hudgens with the Independent Insurance Agents of Virginia, and we were part of the DMV study, which came to no conclusion. But we are incredibly opposed to this bill. We would like to be part of a study if it's going to be a further study, but just in our opinion, I've been in the insurance business for 52 years. There's no way this bill, as it's written, would not create accidents. It's just going to happen. Certainly, a lot of people would obey the bill as it was written, but there's a certain subset of folks on the Honda 850s, and all they're going to hear is lane filtering. They're going to go. It's just going to create some really bad accidents. I don't know if
Well, I think that certainly we value the testimony of Major Maxey on behalf of the state police, but inasmuch as I'm sure he would be an important part of any working group that's formed, perhaps in the interest of time, we'll hear the testimony online and then perhaps move to actually take action on the bill, if that's okay. Major Maxey, do you feel, don't want to cut you short on time, but...
Sure. Just in the interest of saving time, Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police, Mr. Chairman. And again, as was mentioned by the insurance industry, we had a very robust discussion about this, a work group that took place over the past year. Again, I understand if we want to talk to the legislators, I don't know what would be brought out in a future meeting that would discuss what we had with DMV throughout the past year. And again, I'm sure that information will be shared with the patron of the bill, but we did have a very robust study take place over the past year on this issue.
Thanks very much. Virtual, could you bring in one speaker, Ed Levine?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair LaRock, for allowing me to speak. And I know a couple faces in the room. I'm in Sue Haas's area, and I know Matt Danielson. I've been riding motorcycles for 40 years. I've taught motorcycle riding for years, and I'm currently an instructor at a motorcycle range in Fairfax County. I have been rear-ended 3 times in my 40 years, and I've also, like the other gentleman testified, I have gotten out of the way of being rear-ended probably a dozen times. But the 3 times that I did, there was no way to get out of the way, and I didn't know it was going to happen. Luckily, I didn't get hurt like another friend of mine that's also a motorcycle instructor, John Murphy, that got hit at like 30 miles an hour when he was at a light and just couldn't get out of the way. I've noticed that on the comment section, there's a pretty long comment from the AMA supporting this, and I understand the support for this is not there now, and I appreciate Tony bringing up the bill. This is one of those things that I want to work on throughout the year and help educate people. And a perfect example of that is I'm friends with quite a bit of law enforcement, and I sat with a couple law enforcement officers, law enforcement chiefs on this. And the moment I mentioned lane filtering, they immediately thought of California and people whipping through high-speed traffic at high-speed speeds. And when I said, well, this would be more for 10 miles an hour or less, or people at the traffic light, just to get the motorcycles out of the lane and up to the front to get out of that bumper to bumper stop and go. And then I showed a little video that I have. I may have sent it to some of you and even sent a postcard to some of you with some of the reasons. And once I explained that to him, he's a motorcycle rider as well. He's like, well, that I wouldn't be opposed to. So it depends on who's explaining it, how it's explained, who the audience is, and all of that to make this go forward correctly. As Matt said earlier, we need to sit down with people, explain what it really is and not what they think it is, and answer the questions to show that this can be done in a safe manner. And then the final thought I'll leave you with is I have some naysayers of my friends that are like, what are you going to do if people don't do it or they break the law? I'm like, the same thing that you do right now. If they break the law, they get stopped and they get a ticket. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Levine. We do have a quorum now, so before we take any action on the bill, we should back up a little bit and we're going to take attendance here and then entertain a motion on this bill. Mr. Clerk, if you could, thank you very much.
Wait a minute.
It's like my Pavlov reaction tells me. Absolutely, yeah. So, President, if you're here. It looks like we have a quorum, and at this point, do we have a question from Delegate Tata?
So, just out of curiosity, what is the law in California? Is that when you can just go anytime, anywhere? I mean, or does anyone know?
Mr. Chairman, I yield to Mr. Daniels.
Please.
That used to be the law in California. It is no longer the law. The California Highway Patrol worked to come up with a set of guidelines based on data that they found that lane filtering could be done safely under conditions where, and I think the traffic is 35 miles an hour in California. Don't quote me on that, but there's a speed at which the motorcycles can go. So they just can't at any time zip through traffic at high speed or anything like that. It is very regulated under the conditions they can do it.
So, I mean, I totally get this. I see why it's frustrating. You want to whip around people, but I have 2 daughters that live in California, and it is the most terrifying thing when these motorcycles just come out of nowhere. And that's why I was wondering. I wondered if maybe it's because they don't have any speed limit, restrictions. I'm concerned about 2 things. Number one, just what that gentleman said, that people, when they hear like, oh, we do lane filtering, they're just going to go at whatever. They're going to interpret that the way they want to, and that worries me. The second thing is, one of these is such lane filtering may be made safely. I mean, that's so objective. So,
Every lane filtering bill has that, and actually to say that you can do something safely is something we already put in the code right now. We put it in there in passing. It's in language for proper passing. You have to make sure that you can do it safely. And the way that I would tell you to determine whether it can be done safely or not, I have a couple motorcycles. One is a big touring bike. All right, if I'm on a big touring bike and there's a couple trucks up in front of me, I'm not going to try to go in between them. That probably can't be done safely. But if I'm on my little Triumph bobber that's much thinner profile, then that's something that I'm probably going to do. But we already have in code right now numerous places where you get to make a subjective decision on what is safe and what isn't. Now, police officer might just, not agree with you, and then you're going to get yourself a ticket, and you can go explain it to the court. But that's a system we already have in place.
Mr. Chairman, can I have a follow-up question?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate you, but I'd like for my bill to be tabled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I missed that.
Yeah,
I missed that part.
So,
I'm sorry. Some of you missed
so-
that.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
With
Yeah.
the idea of it going to a study. And stuff.
Okay, yes.
Great question.
I'm all for that.
That's what the working group, hopefully going forward, will work out. So.
Thank you. Yeah,
Sorry
with
about
Delegate
that.
Tater, we appreciate your inquiry, and I think given that the consensus seems to be that this idea may well have merit, but needs to be explored further. I know that the chairman, Austin, has expressed a willingness to help put that in motion. That being the case, I think we've probably taken this as far as we're going to for this session, so I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to strike the bill. Strike or wait on the table?
We'll,
Table's fine.
is there a second? Second. The motion's properly before us. Time to vote. Thank you, Delegate Wilt, and to those folks who have helped enlighten us on this, what is a new concept to me, but one that's very interesting, and look forward to seeing you this summer, perhaps.
Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members, for your time.
Chairman, let me say also, I had a meeting with Matt, and Susan, and Tony, and as he's probably said, we're going to have a new director of the Commission of D&D, and that report came out non-conclusive.
Yep.
So we're going to take an overview of it again and just, give a new administration an opportunity to weigh. So
Yep.
Thank you, Delegate Wells, for allowing me to do that.
Thanks,
Thank you.
And I guess the total of the vote was
6-0.
6-0. The motion passes. And I see a few more patrons in the room, and a lot of people are trying to be a lot of different places at this point in time. How are you doing for time, Delegate Brewer? I don't see Delegate Washman here.
Yeah, there's others.
Oh, there you go. How are you doing for time? Okay. You're all so honest. Appreciate that. And, well, actually, it's housekeeping. that Delegate Edmonds similarly has agreed to have his bill laid on the table. He's not here to make that motion, but I'm sure we can do that for him. But similar
with a letter from the chair, correct?
Yeah, similarly, I think he has brought forward the idea that is in his bill that would expand the use of utility vehicles on secondary roads. We have actually heard that bill once, and for a reason that escapes me now, we passed it by, I think. And but we'll explore that further. Chairman Austin has agreed to write a letter to put some conversation in motion, hopefully get us to the point where we have a bill before us next session that we could act on. And so at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to lay this on the table. So moved. We'll open up the vote, please. And the measure passes 5-0. Thank you, Delegate Edmonds, if you're out there listening anywhere. That takes us to Delegate Brewer. Would you care to present 1072 golf carts and utility vehicles on the town of Smithfield roads?
Here, sir?
Near the microphone probably works good.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee. Today, I'm just going to go over what the bill is really quickly. House Bill 1072 is a golf cart bill. Who doesn't like a golf cart, right? And this would allow golf carts to travel on roads, crossover roads that are up to 35 miles an hour. Now, I know that our good friends at VDOT might have a position on this bill, but I believe that we have found a little bit of peace in the valley in hopes, and so I would ask that the committee gently lay the bill on the table because I think that we have found some consensus on how we're going to handle this without legislation.
So moved.
Very good. Very good. Is there any questions or discussion? I guess we're ready to vote. If you'd open up the vote. I appreciate your working with the stakeholders and resolving your bill. If not, then perhaps we'll work it out through legislation at some point in the future. So,
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Brewer. Measure passes 6-0. And I think that leaves, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah. Delegate Washman?
Is he coming today?
No, I should do that. and Delegate Watchman, if I may, before we hear your bill, Delegate Cordoza has asked that this bill be continued until 2023.
So moved.
Second.
That's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Measure carries, and we're one bill closer. We're ready to hear your bill now.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and subcommittee members. It's my pleasure to be here today to present House Bill 88. I was asked to bring this bill forward by Tara Key, who is the mayor of the town of Ivor. Ivor is a town with a population of 310 people. It's in a very rural area alongside 460. It's a very elderly population. They have a rather large softball, baseball field on one side of the town, and it's about 8 or 9 individuals there with golf carts that would like to be able to basically ride their golf carts down the streets of Ivor to that ball field to watch their grandkids play softball for the most part. None of the streets that they're talking about riding on are 35 miles an hour. They're all under 25. Since Ivor is flanked on one side by 460, which is a very busy highway, they understand and they've already discussed that that will not be an section of town that they'll be riding across. I have had one person that I know of send me a little bit of opposition. It was a recreational association that's concerned about four-wheelers suddenly taking over the town of Ivor. It's my understanding that there's only 2 individuals in Ivor that have actually their gators, they're not four-wheelers. One of those being the mayor. The other one is a very elderly citizen. Neither one of those plan on running they're using those as golf carts. This is specifically from golf carts. the mayor of Ivor has put a comment online with those similar type of discussions as well too.
Very good. Thank you for presenting your bill. Are there any people here that would testify against this bill? Any for?
Question for that. Is the town of Ivor, I'm assuming that the town council has voted to ask this to come forward, or just the mayor?
Yeah, the mayor and the town council, they did that about 2 years ago.
Resolution, fine.
Originally, I think it came before the General Assembly about 2 years ago, but it was lumped in with the Smithfield bill that I think Delegate Brewer was to talk to. And for some reason, it got laid on the table because it was bundled in with Smithfield. The reason for this bill is necessary is the town of Ivor does not have a town police department, so they need to get the exception. I have also spoken to the sheriff of Southampton, and he is fine with it as well.
Very good.
Move to report.
I have a question.
Question of Major Max.
Yeah.
Major Max. How do you define a golf cart?
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police. Mr. Chairman, Austin, I see Joanne going for it. We actually did a study this past year defining exactly what the golf cart was, because they are starting to cross into these recreational utility type vehicles. We had a very thorough study this past year defining.
So we do have a defined definition for it.
There is. 46.2-100 has the definition in there.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the golf cart definition in 46.2-100 is a self-propelled vehicle that is designed to transport persons playing golf and their equipment on a golf course.
Okay. So a gator would not qualify as a golf cart.
That,
Make sure you're aware of that.
Mr. Chairman,
Make sure you're aware of that.
Yes, and that's what I was saying earlier. The town mayor recognized there was 2 gators in town, and they realized that those were not going to be classified as golf carts.
Okay, I want to make certain you're aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Perhaps you could just elaborate a little bit. I think you said bounded by 460 on a couple sides. So would the road that this bill, if it were to pass, would permit the use of, would it technically restrict the use of the carts to that section of road that
the ordinance that the town of Ivor has would not allow those golf carts to go to 460. Ivor, you have 460 on one side, and then across the railroad tracks is the bulk of the community area where the baseball softball field is. They would be in that section of town. They would not be trying to cross 460 or going down 460.
So roughly the amount of road that they would be free to operate on if this measure passes.
I want to say the town of Ivor is 1 square mile approximately.
Okay. So they would be able to move from any point in town to the golf course?
Where the residences are, yes. Anybody that lived across 460 would not be allowed to do that.
Yep. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
Move to report.
We'll go ahead and vote on that motion. Measure passes 6-0.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. With no further business before us, we'll adjourn with a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.